Jesus. Hey guys, it's Vass here from Aussie Playground and welcome to my review of the ARRMA Senton 6S. This is a 1/10 scale 4-wheel drive brushless short course truck based on the ARRMA Typhon, which is a 1/8 scale buggy. Now, although the truck is based on the 1/8 scale Typhon, its dimensions match those of my other 1/10 scale short course trucks thanks to the shorter A-arms. So let's take the top off and have a look inside. Right there, smacking you in the face in the middle is a massive roll cage. This of course offers excellent protection for the truck. There's also a huge rear bumper and a very sturdy and generous front bumper. The truck is also equipped with the standard 1/8 scale ARRMA electrics, which is the 2050 kV 4-pole brushless motor, waterproof 180 amp ESC, and a 15 kilogram waterproof steering servo up the front. Of course, there's also a waterproof receiver box, an adjustable battery tray, and everything rides on a stamped 3mm aluminium chassis. Okay, so let's get this review started, and I'm hoping to get this done very quickly for you because I feel like I've reviewed these vehicles, I think this is the 4th time now. There are slight variations between all the ARRMA 1/8 scale vehicles that I've been reviewing, but of course there's also a lot of stuff in common. And although this is the last 1/8 scale that I'm going to be reviewing, at least with this platform, we still have the Raider XL to go, at least as of the time of this video. I do want to get through this a little bit quickly. So, the remote. I have reviewed this guy several times before, and I no doubt will review it again. I haven't had any problems with my remote. Runs on 4AA's, has a good feel in the hand. I love the drop down wheel with the kind of foam surround on here. Collapsible antenna, which I hardly ever use. I usually just have it down unless I'm doing speed runs and the car is really far away. Steering trim, throttle trim, and steering dual rate. A couple of reverse switches and a bind button. These guys have been solid as a rock. Shouldn't give you any dramas at all. All right, the truck itself. I'm going to cut straight to the chase here, and I'm going to tell you that this is the best short course truck that I've had in my fleet thus far. I'm going to say that again. This is the best short course truck that I've ever had in my fleet. I have had several short course trucks from a lot of different price ranges and from various different brands, but this one here takes the cake. This is the best one thus far. Of course, that is not without its shortcomings. There are a couple of things here that I think ARRMA can tweak to make it just that much better. But when you take into account what you pay for this truck and how much truck you actually get, I think this offers an exceptional value, and without a doubt, this is the best one that I've ever come across so far. Now, the body itself has a very unique feature, which is this clear rear wing, which I'm not even sure you can pick it up on camera properly. But this is something that none of the other short course trucks I've ever seen have come with, and it actually suits it. The fact that it's clear, it's a little bit invisible, but it does act as a bit of a downforce, especially when you're floating through the air. The body also comes already pre-cut, which is an excellent thing, something that I don't see very often in other short course trucks. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen it, to be honest with you. So this is an excellent body. I love the look of it. It's very aggressive. And the fact that it comes with a clear rear wing also gives it a little bit of uniqueness, I guess. And the body has lasted. It is fairly well beaten up, but it's still usable. All right, so taking that off, you can see that there is a lot of plastic on here. We've got some side guards here to offer some extra protection. We've also got a huge roll cage in the middle, which has come in very handy when you land this thing upside down or when you roll it. And of course, you've got huge front and rear bumpers that of course offer a lot of protection here as well. Now, one of the things that I have to say I don't like about this truck has to be the tires. The tires, I find these tires to be really not a very good tire to have on a ready to run. The rubber compound is just way too hard, and unfortunately they don't offer a lot of grip in a lot of the terrain that I run them on. It is unfortunate because they do look very good, and even the wheels actually look pretty good. Speaking of which, I've actually broken a couple of these wheels. I know this one here is broken. I don't recall if I have any more that have actually got cracks in them. They haven't snapped completely off. Yeah, this one's broken here as well. So I got 2 broken wheels, and on top of all that, the tires have come off quite severely out of I think 2 or 3 of these rims. Can't quite remember. I think it was only 2. But these tires, unfortunately, my recommendation is when you do get the truck, make sure you keep some chump change around and get yourself a new set of tires. If nothing else, you know, get pre-mounted, but if nothing else, try and get yourself just the tires themselves and maybe unglue the stock tires and put some proper tires on here, because these really didn't offer me a lot of grip. Even with the car or the truck being stock out of the box with the stock pinion, which is actually a little bit small, I did find that the truck's kind of slipped and slide everywhere, and it didn't really give me a lot of traction, and it was a bit unfortunate. It made it fun to drive in a sense where you could throw it around everywhere, but when you did want to actually steer the truck in the direction that you wanted to go, I found that, yeah, very much lacking in performance there. So the tires unfortunately have to go. The tires that I currently have on here are actually out of my Thunder Tiger Bushmaster. That buggy came with the short course wheels, and although someone said to me that the buggy actually looked good in scale with the short course wheels on, I didn't really favor it, but I didn't mind the grip of the tires. So I've put them on my Senton, and I originally had some split six wheels from Proline on here with some AKA tires, and I've done a bit of a swap. So the Bushmaster is now rocking the split six wheels with the AKA tires, the city blocks, and I've got the stock Bushmaster tires on this guy, and they seem to be working pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with the tires on here, and of course they're short course wheels, so they definitely suit the truck. Aside from the tires, I have almost no complaints. The only complaint, which is a fairly consistent complaint through the entire ARRMA 1/8 scale vehicle lineup, is just the delay that the ESCs carry with them. And by that I mean, when you press the trigger, you don't get that initial burst of power. It kind of eases on. It's almost as if there's either a delay or there's like a lot of expo in your throttle there when you punch the throttle. And unfortunately, yeah, it kind of leaves a little bit to be desired, because when you're jumping the truck, you want that instant response to be able to correct the truck in midair. And a lot of the times you have to overcompensate when driving, so you have to basically jump the truck without easing off the throttle too much, otherwise it will nosedive on you, or if it does, you don't have that wheel speed to keep you to correct the truck. You're better off having a little bit more throttle and hitting the brakes to bring the nose down, as opposed to letting the truck go, find that you're nose diving a bit, and then you punch the throttle, and by that time it's too late and you've hit the front bumper head onto the ground. So that's my only real complaint, is just the ESCs seem to be a little lazy on takeoff. There is one thing that is inherent by its design, and that is that it does have a tendency to roll over, or traction roll, if you of course have some decent tires on here, because of all the extra plastic that it carries with it. Obviously the additional roll cage that you see in the center here, and the extra plastics that you see on the side, which aren't entirely necessary if you are trying to lighten up the truck and do some racing with it. You'll find that this truck tends to tip over once in a while if it gets a little bit too much side grip. So that's something to keep in mind. But that really comes down to your own personal tire choice, where you actually run the RC, and how hard you're going to be on it, and of course your suspension setup as well. Speaking of which, suspension on this truck has been phenomenal. I've been really happy with it. I haven't had to tweak anything on it. I haven't had to touch anything on the truck. Very happy with the suspension. Didn't have any bearings fail on this one. Same with my Typhon. My Typhon is now over a year old, I think, and I haven't had any bearings fail on that one either. So it seems that the bearing issue is more consistent on the wider wheelbase or wider track, as someone corrected me recently, on those cars, because obviously you have longer arms and it has a little bit more leverage, which means there's more force on those bearings. These A-arms and the Typhon A-arms are of course a lot shorter, so there's less leverage, there's less weight on the bearings, and I think they've been lasting me a lot longer due to that design. So it's just something to keep in mind there, that obviously the bigger cars, you may have some bearing issues down the line, but these the Typhon and the Senton, so far so good. Several battery packs through this, a lot of punishment on these cars, and no bearing failures to report thus far. Now, speaking of failures, I did have one failure, but I will say that I had to be just ridiculously stupid with the truck in order for it to fail, and that was my rear shock tower, and I think I broke a little bit of my rear bumper as well. On my 6S running video, the last 6S running video that I did with the truck, I was really abusing the truck. I mean, I was driving this thing like it was stolen. I was throwing it off jumps, and it was tumbling and fumbling and carrying on, and I could not kill this truck. Eventually, my friend that was with me said, hey, why don't you try and do a backflip off one of your jumps? It would look really cool, and since we've already got plenty of footage of the truck doing its thing, if anything goes wrong, well, you know, at least you're good to go. I said, okay, fine, I'll give it a try. I have seen somebody do a backflip with the Senton before, but the jump that I tried it on is not very steep. It looks it, but it really throws the RCs forward a lot more than it throws them up. And you know, with truggies and monster trucks, very easy to do because you have much larger tires, which of course, you know, with the inertia of the wheels, that of course causes the truck to backflip quite easily. But with smaller wheels and carrying a great big parachuting body, it definitely made it very challenging. And when I did try to do the backflip, the truck landed right on the rear end, and I ended up bending my rear shock tower. So what does that mean? That means that if you do happen to damage this truck, you really need to look at your driving and what it is that you're doing with it, because I had to really throw this thing in the air, and I'm talking probably 3 or 4 meters in the air, and land it on its back to really cause it any damage. Because under normal driving conditions, even being completely silly with it, taking jumps and letting it roll over and just full throttle on 6S, I couldn't hurt the truck. I had to do something really ridiculous to give it some pain, and that to me proves just how durable this platform is. Obviously with the shorter A-arms, you know, a much stubbier chassis than the Creighton or the Italian, this makes it a very stout RC, and it's very difficult to really cause it any harm. Not to mention that you have a huge roll cage and you've got a very large protecting body helping you out there with durability. So I'm going to say it again. This is the best short course truck that I've ever had in my fleet. Now I haven't, you know, I haven't owned every short course truck out there. So for those of you out there who, you know, you may have a favorite short course truck that you own, don't take offense to this. I'm only referring to, out of all the ones that I've had, this is the best one. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Okay, now in closing, I'm going to give you my final scores because I do want to finish this up very, very quickly. We're going to start off with the electrics. Now, just like all my other 1/8 scale ARRMA vehicles, the electrics get a 4 out of 10. And this one specifically because the ESC is a little bit lazy, which is something that I've noticed more so on this truck than some of the other cars, but it's always there. You can tell that there's always a little bit of laziness when you first hit the throttle and you don't get that instant response. And unfortunately, the ESC is not tunable, so you can't really do much about that. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for the electrics. Now, drivetrain. I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to give this one full marks. 5 out of 5 for drivetrain because, quite honestly, I've had nothing go wrong with this truck. No diffs have blown, nothing's leaked. I haven't had any bearings failed. I mean, what am I going to say about the drivetrain that can be improved upon? Not much. So I think, you know, 5 out of 5 is a very good score and well deserved on this particular truck. Handling, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now, this is partly not so much the fault of the truck, and that is, of course, the rolling and the top-heavy nature of it due to the fact that it has the big roll cage. But I am going to deduct a point for handling from the tires because obviously tires do play a part in the handling characteristics, and they are really not very good. So I do encourage ARRMA to look at their tire, the rubber compound on those tires, maybe soften them up a little bit, and we may see some better grip down the line with future releases. You never know. So 4 out of 5 for the handling. Durability, as I've said before, I couldn't kill this thing until I had to throw it almost off a building, and even then all I did was bend the shock tower, which could have been very easily salvaged and bent back. But I did, of course, end up getting a new one. So durability gets a 5 out of 5 for me. Although I know that the tires came off and I did break the rims, but in all fairness, I had nothing else go wrong with the truck. And, you know, even if that didn't happen, a lot of the times people replace tires on these RC vehicles anyway, regardless of whether they have them fail or not. So I'm kind of gonna let that one slide on this particular truck, only on this one. So durability is gonna get a 5 out of 5 from me. Maintenance. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5 as well, purely because I haven't had to do too much to the truck, and I know that the diffs are very easily accessible. However, the center diff is a little bit trickier because it does have that center roll cage. But again, there is a trade-off to having this extra durability, and that is that you're going to have extra plastic and extra things here to protect the RC and give it some extra strength. So I think that's a fair trade, and I'm still going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Now, part support. This of course will vary depending on where you are in the world, cost of parts, availability of parts. I personally don't have a problem because I have access to Tower Hobbies, and Tower Hobbies stock all the parts for the particular truck, for all the ARRMA lineup. And I've also seen plenty of them floating around on eBay as well as other websites. So all you got to do is Google the part number, and I'm sure you'll find somewhere that will actually stock the part that you're looking for somewhere near you. So for that part support, it's going to get a 4 out of 5. Now, value. As I said, this is the best truck that I've ever had in my fleet, the best short course truck that I've ever had in my fleet. And when you take into account how much it is and how much truck you actually get, I mean, this is a 1/8 scale, a 1/10 scale truck with 1/8 scale electrics. So you get a lot of RC. And of course, if you want to know what else comes in the box, please be sure to check out the unboxing video that I did for this truck, because you do get a bunch of tools, a very comprehensive manual as well. So everything is included for you. And I think, you know, as far as value goes, I have to give this one a 5 out of 5. And that brings the total score to a 32 out of a potential 35, which equates to a 91.42%, which is the highest score I've ever given any RC thus far using this new scoring system. So the Senton is definitely the one to beat at the moment with a 91.42%. And I have to say that it is warranted. It is an excellent truck. It does handle very well for the weight that it is and how it comes equipped, of course. I do have 2 recommendations. One is to replace your tires almost immediately, because you're going to find that the stock tires are pretty useless across a variety of terrains, purely because the rubber compound is just way too hard. I even found that running them on tarmac, they're just so hard that it almost makes them like drift tires. So unfortunately, the tires need to go. I also recommend changing out the stock pinion with the provided optional pinion, which I believe is a 16 tooth, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to find that even just running on 4S, the truck has more than enough speed to keep you happy. So those are my 2 recommendations, and that is all you're going to need to do to enjoy the ARRMA Senton 6S. And of course, you know, some batteries and a charger, which are not included with this particular truck. That is it from me, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. Please be sure to check out the video description for more information on the truck. I've also put a couple of playlists in there with some of the ARRMA vehicles, some unboxings and so forth, if you want to check out some of the other videos that I've done on the ARRMA lineup. And of course, there's also a link in there to my Facebook page, which you can go and check out and give that a like, and that'll help you keep in touch with me and stay a couple of steps ahead of what goes on here on YouTube. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will speak to you next time.